Wait for everybody. Alright, bear with me, everyone. I'm just checking my streams. You know what? Fuck this. I can bring it up better. If I just go multi-screen. Multi-screen. You shine so brightly. Okay. Never knew I needed you. Multi-screen. Alright, we're getting started here in a minute. Bear with me. Alright, we're getting started here in a minute. Bear with me. No, you have to mute. Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Welcome back to the Relief Valve podcast, and we're going to see if... I don't know if Trump is currently doing a chit-chat over getting Maduro, or whether this was old. You know, what I was seeing. This is Agenda Free TV. He's on. I just don't know if he's... Hold on.
Thanks for your patience. All right, here it is. Right here. Look. So this was posted, it says, at about an hour ago. This came out at 8. This came out while we were streaming. This came out during our stream. Here's what she has to say. A message...
So first, let me give you an update here, in case you haven't already found out and you're living under a rock or something. We ended up leading an attack. America ended up attacking Venezuela, hitting military structures and bases, and ended up kidnapping Nicolas Maduro and his wife. They're currently in New York awaiting trial. Some pretty interesting stuff. So here's some video here of Maduro. I want to get, so we got the attacks, we got the, this is Maduro on a helicopter or a transport. He's been captured, blindfolded, he's in his sweats. I guess this is how he was chilling at home. See, guys, dictators are just like us. I didn't mean to record, I didn't hit record on that. So, hi everyone, I got to post this later for TikTok. Hello everyone for TikTok, welcome to the Leaf Out Podcast, Happy New Year. And we're just catching up here with the invasion of Venezuela, where we captured Nicolas Maduro and his wife, and they are now in New York facing narco-terrorism charges. Here's Nicolas Maduro right here, blindfolded in his sweats from hanging out in the evening. And yes, the dictators are just like you and I. They're really we shouldn't be treating them any different. They just want to relax in their sweatpants and their sweatshirt. All right, here's some of that.
pictures of Nicolas Maduro on the Iwo Jima that the president noted he was being transferred on to get here to New York to face charges in that indictment. I want to bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd. President Trump has said that these attacks on Venezuela were related to drugs. Was this a successful mission in that regard, or is it too soon to tell? And what does it say, too, that we're talking about an indictment that goes back to 2020?
Well, first off, what an incredible picture. This picture shows Nicolas Maduro in chains, blindfolded, on a ship after being captured by elite special forces. This picture is a proof of life, certainly, but this picture is also a message to others in Venezuela that have been indicted, that have been sanctioned, about ostensibly what their future could look like, and is a very powerful image in that regard. Now, as we wait for the president to speak, we are expecting him to say that this was about narco-terrorism. If that was the case, if this was about narco-terrorism, then the cleanup is not complete. Nicolas Maduro was indicted back in 2020 at the time, along with 14 other individuals. There are dozens of individuals and entities that have been indicted and sanctioned for narco-terrorism related reasons. So if this is really about narco-terrorism, there are a range of other actions we could see unfold in the coming days, in the coming weeks, to bring individuals that have been charged and sanctioned to justice. And part of the conversations behind the scenes with those individuals may be about relinquishing power, giving themselves up to avoid a fate like Nicolas Maduro.
The president noted, too, this morning that while this is about, he said, getting the drugs off the streets and how it's impacting Americans here, he was asked about the oil. I mean, Venezuela has a lot of it, and he said that we will likely be involved in some kind of way. Talk to about how it complicates factors there.
Well, Venezuela has the world's largest proven oil reserves. At its peak, Venezuela was contributing about 5% of global oil output. That figure is now infinitesimally smaller, less than 1%. The oil reserves in Venezuela, under a best case scenario, are going to need years of revitalization and investment. They have suffered significantly under sanctions and have really declined because of lack of upkeep and other factors. So one of the outstanding questions is whether President Trump and the administration will look at, under certain circumstances, really based on who takes power next, lifting sanctions, lifting prohibitions on U.S. and international companies investing in and operating in Venezuela to help bring their oil fields back online in an efficient way, to revitalize their heavy industrial base. Venezuela, years ago.
So you're seeing some of the video there of the of American military forces attacking Apache helicopters and others hitting military bases. Now, you know, do I think this was because of drugs? No, I'm not sure anybody thinks it's because of drugs. There's a lot apparently that Venezuela has been involved in as far as funneling money, and of course they've got one of the largest personal oil supplies on the planet. I think it's even been insinuated that it's larger than even Saudi Arabia's. So taking control here, and they're saying that they're not going to take control. The Trump administration is saying at this point that they are going to make sure that there is, calm and safety that is restored to Venezuela while a fair and proper leader has been put into place. Now, I move these two over here to show you what it is, because Nicolas Maduro was not the legitimate leader of Venezuela. He cheated. He used their electoral system in order to force him into place and force out his opponents. The first one that ran against him that was supposed to be the president of Venezuela was Edmundo Gonzalez Urita. The legitimate leader of Venezuela is currently Edmundo Gonzalez Urita, who's been recognized by the U.S. as the rightful president following the disputed 2024 elections. In contrast, Nicolas Maduro has been condemned as an illegitimate leader by many countries, including the U.S., which has refused to recognize him since 2019. Maduro's administration has faced significant international sanctions and accusations of human rights abuses, leading to a significant political crisis in Venezuela. The people have been suffering under Maduro. So this guy ended up getting exiled. He ended up having to flee Venezuela. He's now staying in another country. I forget where he is. He did attend Trump's State of the Union address in Trump's first term. So they did speak about him and they recognize him. There's a possibility of someone who can be brought back. The second one is this woman right here. How the U.S. helped Venezuela's Machado escape. This was another woman who was more currently than Edmundo. She was on the opposition party against Maduro. So it's an extraordinary achievement to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She had been given the Nobel Peace Prize. And I had done a story about this, but this year's laureate even getting to the ceremony was a feat of its own. Maria Corina Machado spent more than a year in hiding after her opposition movement defeated Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in last year's election by a wide margin, according to voting records validated by international observers. Maduro refused to leave office and ordered a massive crackdown on the opposition. So she was not allowed to leave the country. She was under lock and key by Maduro in Venezuela. We ended up helping sneak her out under the guise of attending the Nobel Peace Prize ceremony. But, of course, it's not that simple to just bring her back to Venezuela, not while Maduro was in power. So now with Maduro gone, it's possible to bring Machado or, Edmundo back. If she's the most recent winner, it might make a little more sense to bring Machado back, excuse me, to lead Venezuela. And with her there and the potential of, because what we're going to look for is a pro-American government in Venezuela. A pro-American government who will end up doing business with us at a much reasonable price. So it was multiple oil companies that were in Venezuela years ago. When the Maduro regime took over, they ended up no longer honoring the oil contracts that they had with the companies. They kicked all of them out and kept the oil for themselves. That's what Trump has been referencing when he says, this is our oil and we're going to take it back. And people are going, how can oil from another country belong to you? Because it was American oil manufacturers, they might not all have been American, but some were, that had contracts in order to drill and produce oil out of Venezuela. When Maduro and the communists took over, they ended up kicking all of the companies out and just refusing to honor the contracts. So basically, you can come back in now and put it back into play again. In which case, we could get, aside from drilling our own oil, we could get an almost unlimited supply for a much cheaper price in Venezuela, because Venezuela's been overcharging us for years. And we have no choice but to buy from them or OPEC countries like Saudi Arabia and others, Saudi Arabia and Iran, whatever, that are oil-based countries. Now that we can do this with Venezuela, I think we can get millions of barrels of oil, and we might be able to get it on the absolute cheap. So you look to see a pro-American government be put in Venezuela at this point. There was talks that, and you can see here 8 minutes ago, we're going to run Venezuela until a peaceful transition. I'm going to show you some video of some of the attacks, but I want to see what Trump had to say. Oh, fuck. Why did I do that? That was stupid. All right. He's doing a whole show. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find that again. That was a day ago. But so in that video, now I'm gonna have to see if I can find it. I'm gonna play something for you in the meantime here. This is the attacks on Venezuela as people were recording this in real time as it was happening. Here's some of that.
Trump has just posted a statement on Truth Social This is the first public acknowledgement by the United States. I will read it for you, just seeing this pop up on my phone as we speak while texting back and forth with senior advisors at the White House. From the President of the United States. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow, according to the President. There will be a news conference, he says, today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. He then punctuates it, as he often does, with thanks for your attention to this matter. It is signed by the President. So again, I want to repeat two of the key sentences in there. He confirms that the U.S. carried out this large-scale strike against Venezuela, and he says that its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. So, according to the President of the United States, Nicolas Maduro is no longer on the ground in Venezuela. It leaves open a bit of a vacuum there in terms of leadership. It's not entirely clear who is effectively running that country at this time. I just want to get your immediate reaction to the news that we are hearing again in a True Social post from the President of the United States.
Well, this changes everything. This means that this was a regime change operation and that this was had some degree of coordination. Witnesses earlier described helicopters. Witnesses described low-flying aircraft. I was taken aback by what you just said, that Nicolas Maduro and his wife have been taken into custody. That means there were either local forces on the ground or local forces working with Americans to hand over the leader and bring him out of the country. An extraordinary...
So bear something else in mind what this guy is talking about, but maybe he doesn't realize. It was confirmed that the CIA was on the ground in Venezuela as well. So very likely the CIA was on the ground. They were working with local opposition forces in order to locate exactly where Maduro was, where his movements were going to be, and where his safe house was going to be when the attacks happened. So the CIA was on the ground. I think Trump let the cat out of the bag with a press conference where he said, "We've got forces on the we've got CIA, we've got special agents on the ground." So that's how.
Development. We just saw
Chinooks and attack helicopters flying over Venezuela.
Quickly
explosions
in the early hours. You said, does it leave a power vacuum? I know that for the last several months there have been conversations going on through intermediaries with the generals and the top leaders around Maduro, trying to convince them to turn on him, to hand him over, to allow him to be arrested, and to get him to use the phrase what we had heard earlier, to cry uncle. He wasn't crying uncle, and now it seems he was arrested. An extraordinary development.
Now, Richard,
it started out with some boat strikes, and then to a military campaign on land, and now a military operation and an arrest.
And Richard, that of course, it opens up a lot. I apologize for interrupting again. That breaking news that according to the President of the United States, the U.S. has now successfully launched, carried out, as he says, what was a large-scale
so you see some of the attacks
in and around Caracas, the capital city of Venezuela. Beyond that, he says that the U.S. has captured, and flown out of the country Nicolas Maduro and his wife. And Richard, I bring this up because it's significant for a variety of reasons. Nicolas Maduro, only a matter of days ago, said in a new interview that he was open to negotiating with Washington to combat drug trafficking, the first sign that this pressure campaign was taking its toll. The questions that it raises now are, was there any resistance by Maduro when this took place? Was this in some way negotiated with those around him? Those are questions we have on the ground. As you say, the U.S. swept in and did this under the veil of darkness. It took place very quickly. We don't know what may have occurred on the ground right now, but it raises a lot of real questions about what, if any, conversations did exist in any form with Nicolas Maduro, or if this was the first contact when, in effect, the United States military was knocking on his door and sweeping up him and his wife and taking them out of the country.
Panama too. Noriega, those who remember the story. He was accused of being a narco trafficker, refused to leave. U.S. forces swept in and grabbed him. To answer some of the questions, I know for the last several months there have been contacts through intermediaries with Maduro's inner circle to try to convince him to leave the country. He was not interested. He was resisting. This pressure campaign has been escalating. First with the boats, then with President Trump declaring him a narco-terrorist, then all of the U.S. military buildup in the region, the aircraft carrier strike groups, the submarine.
Yeah, and you saw that. So we sent a battle group. We were sinking drug boats. We put a bounty on his head. We were making threats that action was going to be taken. It's been escalating over time, and they were giving him the opportunity to, surrender, escape, whatever, give up his position. The pressure to give up his position. He refused. He kept begging and doing stupid dances and saying, don't attack us, we just want peace, and all this bullshit. And finally, Trump said, okay, that's enough. Why don't we just yank you out of bed in the middle of the night?
Marines, the drones, aircraft. Then, shortly before New Year's, a land strike allegedly carried out by the CIA. Very few details about what was hit then.
Land strike by the CIA.
Overnight, a capture operation. You don't do a capture operation without attacking some military sites, because you need to clear the airspace, you need to clear away air defenses, you need to protect the helicopters and the troops that are going in to remove the person you're trying to arrest. So the U.S., President Trump just decided to pull a Panama II for New Year's and effect regime change in Venezuela. An extraordinary development. And you asked, was this coordinated? It could only have been coordinated with at least some people who turned on Maduro, because the people knew where he was. They knew where his family was. It sounds like he is still alive, and I would not be surprised if we see him in front of an American court.
And he will be. He's in New York right now, facing narco-terrorism charges, and he will be brought before a court in New York. That's where him and his wife are right now. So I wanted to show you some better video of some of the attacks here. Here's some of that, I hope.
Launching an extraordinary nighttime attack on Venezuela, President Trump confirming the strikes and announcing that the U.S. has captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro and his wife. Dramatic video capturing the U.S. strikes overnight. Look at that right there. Explosions ringing out in Venezuela's capital city, beginning just before 2 a.m. local time. So this happened in the middle of the night.
So for the TikTokers, I'm going to wrap it up right here because I have to post this and I don't want it to be too long of a video. So for everyone on TikTok, they are throttling me hugely. I went from 620 people to 580 or 90 at this point. My videos went from like 400 views per video to like 10. So they're throttling the shit out of me, and there's just, there's not a lot that I can do about it. So for whoever I can still reach on TikTok, please consider following me on YouTube and Rumble as well. Relief Valve Podcast on YouTube, Matt Ventilator on Rumble. And that way, when the sale of the company of TikTok happens, and we get maybe a more pro-American, pro-free speech thing coming in, I'm hoping maybe there'll be a difference, but I'm not holding my breath. So for everybody on TikTok, thanks for continuing to follow along, whoever's still surviving over there. And consider following me on YouTube or Rumble as well, okay? I'm going to end that part for them here. And continue on with everybody else. All right, let's go. Hello.
Venezuela's done with all of those boats that were alleged to be drug boats. Let's go ahead and bring in ABC's Alex Perche, who joins us now from Washington. So, Alex, I guess the big question is, how did we get here?
Well, Gio, and we really cannot underscore enough just how...
Let's shut the fuck up. Okay, let's go here.
Struck more than 100, or at least 107 individuals killed in those strikes, both in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. And also in December, we saw a ratcheting up as the U.S. started what the president basically called a blockade against illegal oil tankers. We monitored a number of those seizures of tankers and boats that the U.S. said was distributing sanctioned oil in the region.
More than it is anything else. We actually did. Ended up taking 2 tankers. We took that first one where we landed troops on, and then we ended up, I believe, taking a second one before this attack. So, let's get to some of President Trump's statements on what's going to happen with the Venezuelan government moving forward here. Let's check that out.
At my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi, and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark, and it was deadly.
Cut power?
But captured along with his wife.
Or power in key areas?
Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, like never before. These highly trained warriors operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea. We were just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country.
So that's really interesting. I don't think that was the full press conference. That only seems like a short clip on it. But I think Marco Rubio had also come out and said, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had come out and said that, because originally there was talk that America was going to essentially take control of Venezuela. And then, of course, there was a whole bunch of backlash from that, probably from world leaders as well. Then it kind of transitioned into, we're going to establish peace until they can have a fair election where a fair elected Venezuelan can take over Venezuela. So very likely that is what we're going to see from this point moving forward, is the Americans are going to lead the march on putting in a legitimate leader, legitimately voted in by the Venezuelan people, into power in Venezuela, and then help them gain control. And that, regardless of whether Maduro ends up being locked up for the charges that he has, or what we do with him, because we're keeping him alive. If we kill him, not only do you turn him into a martyr, but you scare every other country on the planet that we're going to kidnap your leader if we don't like what you're doing, and then we're going to install our own government. So our own kind of puppet government. And that'll cause fear over the entire every nation on the planet. So they're going to have to follow a process of, they've shown proof of life, Maduro's alive. They're going to have to now try him under the charges that they're going to bring up against him, narco-terrorism and other things, against the United States, and then potentially offer him to Venezuela as well for rigging elections, for killing people in the streets, because the word was that the Maduro regime was having protesters shot in the streets, and for all of his crimes in Venezuela. So it's possible, we can try him here and then also send him back to Venezuela to be tried under a neutral court that we oversee, and then he ends up going to jail in Venezuela, and then Venezuela votes in a pro-peace government and not a communist government. So we're going to see how all of that plays out. But that's why they've got to be careful with the capture and with the transition. But let's not fool each other. I totally believe this is for oil. I think most people believe that as well. Not to mention whatever shady things Venezuela was involved in, and apparently they had their part to play in several things, and more of that is going to have to come out. Let's see a little more of the updates.
From Venezuela to the world and to the United States. Remember, she is Maduro's vice president, who has now the acting president, because Maduro's not there. But she's part of the Maduro regime. But the President Trump and the Trump administration have said that's who we're working with now. A message from Venezuela to the world and to the United States. Venezuela reaffirms its commitment to peace and peaceful coexistence.
So this is Maduro's vice president making this statement that he's reading here. This is just coming out after Maduro was taken.
Our country aspires to live without external threats in an environment of respect and international cooperation. We believe that global peace is built by first guaranteeing peace within each nation.
So we prioritize moving towards balanced and respectful international relations between the United States and Venezuela, and between Venezuela and other countries in the region, premised on sovereign equality and non-interference. Good luck with that, bitch. These principles guide our diplomacy with the rest of the world. We invite the U.S. government to collaborate with us on an agenda of cooperation oriented towards shared development within the framework of international law to strengthen lasting community coexistence. President Donald Trump, our people and our region deserve peace and dialogue, not war. This has always been President Nicolas Maduro's message. Bullshit. And it is the message of all Venezuelans right now. This is the Venezuela I believe in and have declared my life for. I dream of a Venezuela where all good Venezuelans can come together. Venezuela has a right to peace, development, sovereignty, and a future. Delcy Rodriguez, acting president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. So, I mean, she's still going to be a shitbag like Maduro. So, chances are they are not going to work with her. Or it's going to be...
To have it, and they know that.
I think there's some confusion that the operation in Venezuela will...
All right, he's got some audio where he was being interviewed here. Let's check out a little bit of that audio.
I really want to hear, because we've been hearing a lot of interesting stuff on this. We got a few minutes more of the audio from Air Force One, where President Trump was taking questions tonight. Let's listen to a bit more of this. We've heard him talk about Venezuela and also Colombia and Greenland. Let's hear and other things. So let's see if we hear any more about Venezuela as he is taking questions here.
It should be, sir. What would the
recently, to boost up security in Greenland, they added one more dog sled.
So this is him talking about Greenland and saying Denmark. The run up to this, he was saying that we need Greenland for our national security, and he said Denmark isn't doing enough. It belongs to Denmark. It's a kingdom of Denmark. So let me just I'll hit play here, and you can hear this.
From the standpoint of national security, and Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you.
What would the justification be, sir? What would the justification...
To boost up security in Greenland, they added one more dog sled. It's true.
Sir,
they thought that was a great...
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the justification be?
About Greenland now. I just say this.
I mean, the justification for Greenland, if they really want to go back in time with it, they were taken over by the Nazis. The Nazis had a base in Greenland, and we went in and took out the Nazis in Greenland. So if they want to talk about what claim we have to Greenland, how about we liberated Greenland in order for it to be, open to Denmark taking control of it? We took out the Nazis that were in Denmark.
We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
I think there's some confusion that the operation in Venezuela will affect your relationship with Xi Jinping and China.
No, I don't think so. I have a very good relationship. We have the power of tariffs, and he has other powers on us.
Are you still planning to travel to see him in April?
Yeah, I'll be going in April.
I think there's some confusion from Americans and maybe the community in the world when it comes to what you said about Rodriguez earlier today in a phone interview. You said that she would face the same fate, if not worse, than Maduro. But it sounds like you're talking to her on the phone and wanting to work with her.
My people, it's the same thing.
Are considering her in power. Can you just clarify where you stand on Delcy Rodriguez right now?
I don't have to tell you. I just say that she will face a situation probably worse than Maduro, because Maduro gave up immediately.
So she could also be captured.
He raised his hand, he gave up, and he did the right thing, but he gave up. So we were so effective, and it was so fast and violent. It was very violent, but we were so effective. He raised his hands, he gave up.
What was the most violent moment during?
I don't want to tell you.
Did you get a...
I do want to point out that President Trump is saying that Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president and now acting president in Venezuela, who Trump says the U.S. is working with now, he said that she would face a worse fate than Maduro if she didn't cooperate properly with the U.S. Now, I'm not aware. Remember, Maduro had been charged with crimes in 2020 in the U.S. And the U.S., the Trump administration framed the capture of Maduro as a law enforcement action, as taking somebody into custody who'd been charged in the U.S. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not aware that Delcy Rodriguez has been charged with crimes in the U.S. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't remember hearing that she had been charged with crimes. So, if she hasn't been charged with crimes, then capturing her would not be framed, you couldn't frame that as a law enforcement action unless there's new charges or something. Anyways, I'm just pointing that out.
Right, it would just end up being...
One of our viewers said Delcy next. Yeah, but you heard him, it was kind of threatening there.
Yeah, I don't know if he's just...
What was the most violent moment during the...
I don't want to tell you.
Some, bullying type stuff there. My guess would be for Delcy, the vice president, it would be... she would be forced to step down, or she would be forced to participate in and allow open elections. Like I said, the other woman that I showed you, Machado, she is the most recent winner as the opposition party against Maduro. So as her being legitimate and Maduro denying it, refusing to step down, Machado would be the one to step up at this point, because you had Edmundo before that, but and he's been exiled, and he had won the first time, and Maduro stole it. Now you have Machado, and it would make sense because they snuck her out of the country already. This was to keep her safe. The going to get her Nobel Peace Prize, which she was offered and she did receive after we snuck her out, is just a smokescreen. And it was to get her safely out of the country because Maduro had her locked down. She was on a no-travel notice. She was not allowed to leave Venezuela. So it makes sense if she won against Maduro to bring Machado back and for her to run Venezuela. So I don't know how Delcy would come into play here. If Maduro was an illegitimate president, Delcy is an illegitimate vice president. So I don't know if the negotiations that are happening between the Trump administration and the discussions that are happening with Delcy are simply like terms of surrender. That's what seems more likely to me than anything else, because like he's saying here, they can't arrest her for crimes against, as a co-conspirator, maybe, you could arrest her and do the same thing that you did with Maduro, because she would have been complicit in anything Maduro was doing, right? The vice president would be aware of what the president is doing, and she would have been signing off on things too. So it's possible that they have a means to, a legal ground to arrest her as well, or if the government is in turmoil at this point after Maduro being taken, is possible that the opposition or someone else can just go in and just remove her. If we say, go do what you got to do because we need to make a switch here, they can make that happen, and then it's the end of her day. We'll have to see how that plays out. If she's still... She's a puppet in charge right now. She's not actually in charge of Venezuela. She's waiting to figure out what America's going to do. So I don't know if they're going to wait for the court process to play out, or if they want to keep moving and they want to keep the momentum going. In which case they're going to have to do something with Delcy.
Did you get a briefing? Did you get a briefing at all on Maduro's first night in U.S. custody, and what can you tell us about that?
On every aspect of it, but I don't think it's appropriate to talk to the press about it. You'll find out.
When it comes to him in court tomorrow, what's the end game here with Maduro? Does he just rot in a U.S. prison? We're just going to go through a slog of a trial. The judge is very respected, Judge Hellerstein. He's a highly respected judge. We'll see how we do. The case it's infallible. If people are so happy with what we've done, you go down to Miami, you go down to a lot of places, and they're all dancing in the streets of this country. Now, he was a rough man, killed millions of people. He killed millions and millions of people. After he stands
Can I just say something? This is a good thing, not a bad thing. President Biden put a $25 billion bounty on the guy's head. Why? Because he was a horrible criminal, murderer, poisoning our people. Every administration has been saying he's a threat to our country. He's a bad guy. This is the first guy that's actually done something about it. Here's the story for me. He could be in Turkey today, but he's in New York. So if you tell people in Cuba, you need to stop being a communist dictatorship threatening America, you should go somewhere else. You better take the offer. Maduro has nobody to blame but himself. He gave him a way out. He chose to defy Trump and the U.S. military, and his ass is in jail where he deserves to be, and every president has said the same thing, but he did it.
One of the things that is happening, and I think you see it all the time, Howard, you've seen it, that Cuba is ready to fall.
Yes.
Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Marco Rubio has really had your ear, it seems, throughout this entire process. I know that Vice President Vance was just down the street when this whole operation was playing out, but would you say that Marco Rubio has your ear more than the Vice President right now?
No, they both do. No.
Stupid questions from the idiot press. So okay, so we're gonna temporarily oversee things in Venezuela while they have a transition of power. We're gonna have to see how that transition plays out.
Now at 10:30, swift reaction pouring in following the United States' large-scale strike on Venezuela and the capture of its president, Nicolas Maduro. Some political leaders say that the military operation sets a dangerous precedent.
Some also said the military action was a violation of federal and international law. Chris Wolf joining us live from the News Center, where he spoke with political and policy experts. Chris?
Yeah, that's right. Sandy and Karine, everyone we heard from tonight agrees that Nicolas Maduro was a brutal, corrupt, and authoritarian leader. However, some experts say that reality does not give the American president the justification to take military action to oust him.
I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence.
President Trump addresses the world after the U.S. blitz on Venezuela and capture of the South American country's president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife, Celia Flores. Mr. Trump calls them narco-terrorists who launched a deadly drug and firearms-filled campaign against the United States and its citizens, explaining the couple will now face charges on American soil. A White House account is posting footage that apparently shows drug enforcement agents escorting the embattled Venezuelan president through a detention center in New York. Not everyone supports the U.S. action, including political and policy and legal experts who spoke with KTLA.
Nicolas Maduro was a dictator, was an authoritarian leader, stole the elections, was a corrupt. However, that does not justify the invasion of military operations.
Ariel Dulitsky is a human rights law professor at the University of Texas in Austin. He considers the U.S. military action illegal, violating international law and the United Nations Charter. So, what would have been a better resolution, in his opinion?
Well, we have to support the opposition in Venezuela.
Dulitsky believes the Trump administration is basically pursuing economic gains for the U.S. oil industry and putting Americans in Venezuela at greater risk.
The U.S. could see this as a template and could take similar actions in other countries, and other countries could take similar actions. If the U.S. takes this action and there really are no specific repercussions on the global stage, then you could see other powerful countries with powerful militaries potentially opting to do the same thing.
Professor Jessica Levin.
But you know what? They already do that. The other countries, they want something, they go in and they take it. Sometimes you hear about it, sometimes you don't. Or sometimes they put it under a veil of mystery as to why one country or another went into a place and took some action. You find out later on it was some sort of benefit for them. So, saying that we're doing this so it's going to open the floodgates for every other country to maybe decide to go after another one, have a regime change so they can put something in their pocket. I mean, countries have been doing this since the dawn of time. Nothing new is happening here. And the basis is going to be for attacking Venezuela is going to be that Venezuela was taking actions against the United States, and this gave us a justification to counter-offensive, essentially. What it turns into a gray area is Mexico does the same thing. So are we going to go in and, because this is what the catch-22 is, right? I mean, if we're going to be honest with each other. We go in and we take Venezuela so we can get all the oil. I got it. We can have a debate all day about the morality of going in and doing a regime change in Venezuela in order to secure the oil. But if we do open that Pandora's box, and we have to look at all the other countries and go, okay, what are the other ones that have been fucking with us or bringing harm to us? And what are we going to do about them? And Mexico has been a big problem. It's been a problem at the border. They don't regulate who's crossing the border. The cartels are a problem. They're pretty much run by the cartels. So if we're going to run this operation into Venezuela, are we going to run an operation into Mexico? I mean, we should. If you ask people, we should. We have another narco-terrorist country on our border, not across the Caribbean, on our border linked with us, and that's something that we need to secure and we need to solidify for everybody. So are we going to do that? Or do we end with taking, like, it was easier to hit Venezuela? They're a communist country. They're nowhere near the amount of military needed to fight us, right? So it's easier to take a lesser opponent out. But and Mexico is too. But we do, car manufacturers doing business with Mexico, when they're making parts for cars, they get spread all over the place. Some of the parts are made in Canada. The other parts are made in Michigan or something. Then the other parts or that thing is sent to Mexico, where they put it into the frame and set the rest of it up. And then they ship it over here. So it's like, we're not really doing business with Venezuela other than buying oil from them at a much higher price. And we are doing more business with Mexico. So does that mean that we don't hit Mexico because we're doing more with them financially? I mean, that's a question when you see something like this. It's, it's like a rules for thee but not for me type of thing. We do this, but we're not going to do the other one because of other insinuating circumstances. It's weird. But of course, the left is angry. They are fuming mad because we captured a dictator and put him in jail. When I tell you guys, and I hope one day more people, I hope every day people are waking up. But I can tell you right now, you don't hate the left enough, and you don't hate the Democrats enough. Because who do they support? They support terrorists in Palestine. They support Hezbollah in Lebanon. They support Black Lives Matter when it burns down cities. They support Antifa when it works essentially as the left hand of the Democrats in order to attack people, assault people, and help in burning cities to the ground. And then they also end up supporting dictators like Nicolas Maduro. So these piece of shit leftists are upset that we went in. How dare we go in and capture Nicolas Maduro?
We're bombing Venezuela right now. It is 2:35 a.m.
Now, on the right, you see the Venezuelans and the Latino community, more specifically, it's going to be Venezuelans, very happy right now. There is a lot of celebration going on that Maduro has been arrested and Venezuela is now facing the chance to be free. So you're seeing happy Venezuelans on the right, angry, dumb leftist cunts on the left.
And Pete Kegsbrook, fucking cosplay G.I. Joe, is literally bombing Venezuela. You guys didn't stop them when they were bombing boats in the ocean.
Going into another country with enough firepower to take their president and then saying you're going to charge their president with criminal charges in our country is such an insane breach of sovereignty. I'm like so shook.
It's the worst thing on this planet is dumb white leftist bitches. The absolute worst thing.
And we've sort of set the stage.
Oh, the fucking Somali pirate. Here we go.
Arriving today. This particular bullet.
This bitch has the... what, is she wearing E.T.'s hat? What the fuck is this? It looks like she was on a pirate raid, and they gave her this because they were low on clothing supplies, and she just got back in order to do this interview. But this fucking bitch has got the audacity to show up on video and talk as if she's not being investigated for all the fraud that's happening in Minnesota right now. I mean, these fucking scam con artists, rip-off artists, pieces of shit have really got a lot of fucking balls to steal money from the taxpayers with their bullshit schemes, then talk about how much they hate America, then talk about how you need to mind your own fucking business about it.
And the use of sanctions to eventually intervene and make regime change. really does not help the people of countries like Venezuela.
A pirate? Venezuelans cheering, celebrating. In America,
all right, well, some updates here
places.
on the whole Venezuela situation. If you missed it overnight, former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was captured and extradited by U.S. forces in a series of military actions that took place in the nation of Venezuela. And as you could imagine,
that we approach this very carefully. One, I'm myself, just like anyone else, who is absolutely concerned with the humanitarian crisis that's happening. And I think it's important that any solution that we have centers the Venezuelan people and centers the democracy of Venezuelan people first. I am very concerned about U.S. interventionism in Venezuela, and I oppose it.
Yeah, well, folks, if you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel.
People, Venezuelans celebrating. So you've got the left and dumb white leftist bitches upset that America had the audacity to go in and take Maduro, that poor innocent little dictator. In the meantime, the Venezuelans are having a fucking party because their country they left because their country's a shithole. So imagine if you had job opportunities, you had a legitimate leader, and you didn't have to leave, you could stay. The left talks about, well, the reason everyone's leaving is climate change. And it's dictators running countries and randomly killing people. No one wants to leave America because they love their country and they want to fight for it and they want to stay. If you get shit leaders, yeah, that sucks, and you try and fight back against that. But you don't want to leave. A lot of them, others from other countries, they leave because it sucks. It's a brutal dictator. They're shooting people in the streets. How do you live that way? How do you raise your kids that way?
Libertad que nos está brindando. De alguna manera se convierte junto a Edmundo González y a María Corina Machado en los libertadores de Venezuela.
Yeah, well, that's got to be a pretty sobering reality check if you're one of these stupid communists, because they've spent so much political capital and energy trying to build this coalition of the non-whites and the third worlders. Hey, we all have to unite and resist against Western imperialism and American capitalism. And then you find, far from Maduro being some force of stability,
I've been waiting for years, suffering, where they hurt my brothers and killed them. It's been horrible. How many years have you been here in the United States? How long ago did you leave Venezuela? We've been here 8 years now. 8 years because they killed our older brother, and it was hard. They kidnapped my brothers. That was hard. And I thank God for all of this because it has been hard.
Muchas gracias. Su nombre? Yajaira. ¿De qué parte de Venezuela es? De Maracaibo. De Maracaibo. ¿Y qué le dice a las personas que están viendo en este momento toda esta emoción de los venezolanos, a los venezolanos que
hay que disfrutarlo?
Muchas gracias. Seguimos compartiendo con las personas que se... Estoy feliz porque yo soy hermana de Jordi Suárez, un muerto político. Cuando las guaritas tuve que emigrar por ese régimen y me siento feliz porque a nosotros nos quitaron un hermano, un hijo mío. Estoy feliz, se está haciendo justicia por toda esa sangre derramada que hubo en Venezuela. Feliz, Venezuela libre, que
How exciting. My God, I adore you, Venezuela. How exciting.
Yeah, tell us.
That woman was smart. She was holding an American flag. She's talking about the reasons she had to leave Venezuela, which for me make perfect sense. I'm glad she came here. She did it legally, and she became a citizen. She loves this country. She's holding the American flag, but she's saying, my home country, that I had to leave, or maybe my whole family would have been killed. And I'm so happy that Trump has done this, and they have started the process of liberating Venezuela. Maybe now I can visit my family. Maybe now they can live safely there, and they can have families of their own. Maybe we can travel there and be on vacation and not worry we'll be arrested when we walk back in there. So, this is really great. And you notice there's a pattern with the left. So this man is talking about how happy he is to hear the news. It's in that Venezuela, that Maduro's been captured and Venezuela has been freed.
Gracias, Dios, por tu maravilla, gracias por tu milagro, gracias por ser bueno con nosotros, hermanos venezolanos. Espero que llegamos a...
So, you know, the only ones that are angry about this, the left are angry about this. The actual people of Venezuela who have had to live there and live through this are celebrating. They're happy that this has happened. So this guy had said, and this was some interesting stuff, and I had reposted this. Caracas was a major CIA hub. Venezuela is home of election fraud. Venezuela and the Bush family built a vast drug empire together. Venezuela helped build Hezbollah into what it is. Hezbollah is a terrorist group in Lebanon, north of Israel. It is not a coincidence that Maduro's regime fell at the same time the Iranian regime is falling in Iran. I did a story already where there are protesters and riots in the streets of Iran right now. Their money has fallen to millions of their dollars are worth one of our dollars now currently. So their money financial system is completely failing, and there's word of water shortages happening in Iran as well. So it's possible the Iranian regime is about to fall as well. And there was word that the mullahs, the Ayatollah and the other religious group were one of the places that they could retreat to was Venezuela. So we've now just cut Venezuela off the map for the Iranian dictatorship. So where else can they run and hide if they have to flee Iran? There's a lot of moving parts in what's happening with Venezuela. Is it about fuel? Sure, I'm sure it's a bonus. I'm sure it's something that absolutely is a big part of that pie, but it is not the entirety. It is not a coincidence that Maduro's regime fell at the same time the Iranian regime is falling. You are watching a well-oiled military plan to completely take down the deep state. I promise the Bush family and all other deep state families are shitting cinder blocks today. Ignore the panicans. This is the deep state being toppled before your eyes. So I can't currently verify everything that he's saying right now. But if there is accuracy to any of this, it's really interesting. So the only people that are upset that Nicolas Maduro has been arrested are Bernie Sanders, Zoran Randani, Sean Penn, Rand Paul, the Krasensteins, who are a couple of little midget faggots, and white liberal women. That tells you all you need to know. And that's 100% correct. I have done, Maduro got his perp walk through by the DEA when he was in New York. And I had done another story about this before. Somebody had said, hey, Grok, Put Nicolas on board Nicolas Maduro on board the USS Iwo Jima in a bathing suit, and that's what Gronk ended up coming up with. That was the actual picture of when he was captured. So, strongly involved in Venezuela's oil industry after the military. I reposted this. Yeah, of course we're going to deal with the oil, and what we can do here. Thousands of this is inevitable West. Thousands of Venezuelans are waking up and celebrating the news of communist dictator Maduro being captured by U.S. forces. The legacy media won't show you this. This is somebody supposedly on their balcony, hearing people just celebrating in the streets, crying out in joy. Sounds like they're announcing it over the radio there as well about the attack and about what happened. So here's a point I want to make about the left and why you don't hate these pieces of shit enough. The left claims to be the moral majority for every other disenfranchised population in the world. So the left, and mostly these white leftist morons, claim that they have to be the voices for the black community. They claim they have to be the voices for the Latino community. Then they have to be the voices for the disenfranchised people in Venezuela or Palestine. And they always end up taking the side of the bad guys in every single situation. In Palestine, it's a fair amount of the Palestinian people and Hamas as well that they end up siding with. So they side with terrorists. And then they side with Nicolas Maduro over the people of Venezuela who are suffering under his regime. But they say, oh, it's bad that you dragged him off and you took him away like this. I did a story when Trump brought the troops into Washington, D.C. White leftist dumb cunts were out in the streets, banging on their pots and pans and screaming at police and troops and yelling how horrible this was. And then some people went and started interviewing people that actually had to live in Washington, D.C. Not the white leftist cunts on the outskirts of the city, or the other ones that live within the city but just turned a blind eye to all the bad things that happen to people. They went and talked to the citizens of Washington, D.C., black citizens, because it's like 40%, it's like 41% black in Washington, D.C., and they were just stopping them on the street and asking them, what do you think about Trump putting the troops in Washington, D.C., and what are your thoughts on it? And they said, for the first time in our lives, we can walk around the streets of Washington, D.C. and not be assaulted, not be robbed, not be attacked or watch somebody get in a gunfight and get killed. I mean, the actual citizens, right? Not these lefty retards who claim to speak for everybody else. The actual citizens and actual people that were being affected by the things that were happening here. Now, take a look at the Venezuelan people. The Venezuelan people, for the most part, are celebrating Maduro being captured and taken away. They are celebrating that Venezuela could come back to peace, some prosperity, and fair leadership by the people in Venezuela. Who's angry about it and trying to speak on behalf of the Venezuelan people? Radical left retards. Dumb leftist white cunts who have no idea what's going on, no idea what the score is, and they don't care. They just have this hippie bullshit approach to life. Whereas, like, well, you shouldn't have done that, man, because it was bad, man. It's a puff, puff, pass. And they don't pay it. These morons are allowed to vote, and they don't pay attention to what is happening to the people. The Venezuelan people are cheering. You think that if your brain functioned, you might look at that and go, oh, so this was a positive thing for the Venezuelan people. Okay, I will support and I will applaud for the Venezuelan people. No, they're coming out and they're angry that Maduro was taken. A brutal, horrible dictator that everyone across the board, including Democrats, can agree was a dictator. And the left is upset that we took a dictator out and are going to offer peace back to another country, give another country the opportunity to have its own legitimate agency back again. So, you know, in finishing here, there's still problems we need to deal with in the United States, and I hope we're going to do that. I hope we can walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. So we've helped out Venezuela, we've gotten rid of Maduro, but we've got left-wing radicals and terrorists here in the United States. We've got illegal Somali daycares running, stealing taxpayer dollars. I mean, we've got our work cut out for us in the United States. But am I going to shed a tear for taking Maduro and Venezuela, and that we're going to take over and take an oversight role there? No, absolutely not. If I go to the gas pump and gas is a fucking $1.99 again, I don't even fucking ask me if I'm upset about Maduro being taken or that we've got a foothold in Venezuela. I'll just be thinking about what I'm going to do with the extra money I'm saving. So I hope we're getting oil. I hope we're going to get cheap gas. I hope this whole situation works out. Fuck the left and fuck the Democrats that are calling this a bad thing, which is absolutely ridiculous. And let's see how this all plays out and how the regime change in Venezuela goes. We have to see if Iran falls as well, because it continues to be in chaos, as the reports I'm getting. Protests are still happening. People are still in the streets. It is not over. And it's possible Iran is going to have another revolution. Had one in 1979. That's when the mullahs and the Ayatollah of rock and rolla was able to take over. And who knows if we're now looking at another revolution in Iran. But that could end up, if the people peace gets brought back to Iran and it gets brought back to Venezuela. I mean, these are moves forward in bringing, like, South America and the Middle East towards more peace and more stability. That ends up being good for the entire planet. So we'll see how it all plays out. That's what I've got for you all today for the shitbag roundup. And I'll have more updates through the week as everything comes on. All right, thanks, everyone. Please like, share, most importantly, subscribe to the show on YouTube, Rumble, wherever it is that you're checking it out. I appreciate all the support, and I'll talk to everybody again real soon. Thank you, everyone.